live. Okay. Well, so we will discuss a new chapter today. That is your emergency and amendment provisions. We'll discuss, probably we have skipped this chapter. We'll discuss emergency and your this chapter that is emergency provisions. We'll discuss that. Okay. So emergency is a first of all, let me tell you that emergency is an anti-federal provision, or you can say a non-federal provision. It is not a federal provision, rather it is a anti-federal provisions. It does not have any in a federation you don't find this find these provisions. So definitely it is an anti-federal provisions. As you can see on the screen, division of powers between the federation and its units makes a farmer weak farmer. Why? There is emergency in India. Why there is emergency provisions in India? Emergency provisions in India due to the several factors. That is, one of the factors is that the division of power tilts more towards the center, not the state. In India, the division of power tilts or favors central government more than the state government. As you have noticed, there is a more substantial number of subjects are mentioned in union list, more substantial. The important subjects are mentioned in the you can say in the union list, like defense, currency, foreign affairs, banking, insurance, so on and so on. The states are given less subjects and also ordinary subjects that are of regional importance, not your national importance. And in certain subjects are mentioned in the concurrent list, in which the state and center both can legislate. The state and center both can legislate, but that is in case there is a conflict. In case there is a conflict between the center and states, or central law and state law on a concurrent subject. The central law will prevail over the state law. The central law will prevail over the state law. That is also a point to be noted. Although several doctrines have been evolved by Supreme Court to give importance to state laws on concurrent list, but still the central law will prevail over that is a constitutional provisions also. So that is the reason we say division of powers between the federation and the units makes the farmer. So that is a wrong thing. So we have to notice, make the latter a weak farmer government, not the farmer. That is, you have to please rectify. So please rectify that. So it is not your weak form, rather it is a strong form of government. So you can see that it is not weak but strong form of government. And the states are comparatively are weak in terms of powers, because we are a quasi-federal country. We don't have classical federation like America. This weakness is avoided by providing larger power to federation whenever contingency situation demands unified action. Under Article 355, the security of the state is the responsibility of the center. So whenever a contingency situation arises in state or in states, the Constitution provides certain conditions, certain remedies, certain arrangement to deal with the contingency situations. Such emergency powers turn the federal government into unitary government for the time being of contingency, which reverts back or which reverts to normal federal structure as soon as the just a minute, as soon as just let me tell you that this is just makes the former or makes the latter, you can write latter means the units, and as soon as, so the timing which reverts back, which reverts to normal federal structure. Federal governments in the US and Australia took over more power during World War II, but there is no such provision in their constitution for making them or imposing emergency. So that is the things of emergency powers. So with a view to deal with contingency situations and to deal with the emerging or erupting law and order situation in the units and dilution of powers of the government, and also there is emergency contingency situation arises, then the Constitution provides for the assumption of extraordinary power by the federal government to deal with the situations. It is not left to the unit, obviously, because units are not in a position to deal with any situation at their will. It is not possible for them, because it is somewhat very, you can say, it was very somewhat not possible for a state to deal with the situations. It requires unified action, as I told. So requirement of unified action has made the emergency provisions essential in our Constitution. I would like to add another reasons also. First, there is a emergency or contingency situations. Contingency situations require unified action. Number two, to resist anti-national forces and developments to protect regulate or control the erupting law and order problem. And to avoid any financial breakdown, or you can say disaster. So I think these four parameters, four things, you can say many points can be added. Why there is an emergency provision in Indian Constitution and why there is that. So to put to deal with an extraordinary, exceptional circumstances, contingency situations, where the security of a state or states are under threat, where the lives of people are under threat, where the law and order problem become immense, become severe, then the Constitution confers special or extraordinary power upon the central government or the federal government to contain those forces. This is the main things we have to notice in this regard. Then emergency provisions. Emergency provisions are found mentioned in article in part 18 of the Constitution. Article 252, 352 to 360 deals with the different types of provisions. Although a few members in the Constituent Assembly protested or vehemently opposed this part, it was accepted, adopted by the Assembly. H.B. Kamath, an honorable member of the Constituent Assembly, held that this provision leads to totalitarian state or establishment of totalitarian state in India, or a complete state dominations. But he is not right to a great extent, as we have noticed that there are many more valid grounds to have this provision than invalid grounds. Okay? So this is your emergency chapters. So there are three types of emergencies. One is national emergency, another is state emergency, another is your financial emergency. National emergency under Article 352, state emergency under Special 356 and 360. Okay. Okay. So we shall first discuss proclamation of a national emergency. We shall discuss first proclamation of national emergency. So Article 352 clause 1 say that if the president is satisfied that a grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or any part of the territory is threatened, whether by war, external aggression or armed rebellion, he may declare national emergency in part or parts or the whole of India, as may be specified in the proclamation explanation. So let me write the exact clause. As you can see also, if the president is satisfied that a grave emergency has grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or any part thereof is threatened by a proclamation declare national emergency in part or parts or the whole of India as specified in the proclamation explanation. It may take place before the actual occurrence of war or external aggression, not armed rebellion. External aggression, yes, or armed rebellion. So that is mentioned in 351 clause 1. Okay, that is Article 351. So we find two provisions in Article 352. One is a 52.1. 352.1. One is that if the President is satisfied that a grave emergency has arisen whereby the security of India or any part thereof is threatened, and it may by proclamation declare national emergency in part or whole of India. So there is two provisions. One is satisfaction of the President as to the existence of a grave emergency situation. Another is that it may take place before the occurrence of war, armed rebellion. That means before occurrence, the central government the president may declare proclamation of emergency. If he sends the occurrence, or if it is going to happen, then that will happen. That will be declared. So it does not mean that only after occurrence of war or external aggression or armed rebellion, national emergency will be invoked. That is not the cause. It may occur before the occurrence of the actual war, external aggression and armed rebellion. That is 351. Article 352. Article 352 clause 2 deals with revocation of national emergency. Revocation of national emergency means Article 352 itself contains revocation of emergency, and that will be made by a subsequent proclamation. Another proclamation will be made for revocation of national emergency. Will deal how it can be revoked. Then Article 350 Clause 3, Article 352 Clause 3 states that the President shall not issue a proclamation unless he receives the consent, the approval of the Union Cabinet in writing. That was added by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. Okay, so that is Article 355(3) deals with that the consent, the approval of the Union Cabinet is necessary in this regard. Then we shall go to, we have discussed, then we shall go to the next part. Parliamentary approval, that is mentioned in parliamentary approval. It is mentioned in 355 4. (352)(4) mentions that every proclamation under this article shall be laid before the House of Parliament and shall, except where it is a proclamation revoking previous proclamation, cease to operate at the expiration of what. So, imposition of national emergency needs approval of the Parliament within 1 month from the date of such declaration or proclamation. Otherwise, it will cease to operate. So, proclamation of emergency is not a sole decision of the executive. Although executive will, the president will declare the proclamation, but it has to be approved by the Parliament within 1 month from the date of proclamation. And in case Lok Sabha is not in session or Lok Sabha is dissolved, then the approval will be approved by the proclamation shall be approved by the Rajya Sabha, and when Lok Sabha meets, it will be approved by it within 30 days from the date of meeting, first meeting. 30 days from the date of first meeting. So that is also the provision, that 30 days from the date of meeting. That means a proclamation of emergency shall continue even if Lok Sabha is not in session, Lok Sabha is not there. And when Lok Sabha comes again or reconstituted, then it will have to be supported or approved by Lok Sabha in 30 days. Okay. That is there. And another thing, so that is a provision. Then special majority, it will be approved by a special majority. That provision is mentioned in 352(6), clause 6 mentioned achi. It will be approved by Parliament not less than, it will be approved by, passed by each house only by majority of the total membership of majority of not less than 2/3 members. So special majority provision is provided in 352(6) and it was added by 44th Amendment Act 1978. Then periodical assessment by periodical approval is 6 months. That is your 352 clause 5. Here it is said that the proclamation will cease to operate on the expiration of a period of 6 months from the date of proclamation. Shall cease to operate if it is not approved by Parliament within 6 months from the date of proclamation. The means Parliament has to proclaim, has to approve the continuance of national emergency every 6 months. Continue in force for a further period of 6 months from the date on which it would otherwise have been ceased. Provide if the dissolution 6 months. Okay, and it will cease to operate unless it is approved by Parliament every 6 months, and if it is approved then it will continue for a unlimited period of time. There is no such provisions for limitation on the national emergency. So maximum period a national emergency shall continue is unlimited or undefined if it is approved by Parliament every 6 months. Maximum continuance okay, that is 352. And with regards to revocation, which is dealt with the revocation. With regards to revocation, it is dealt with under Article 350 356, 52, clause 7. Under Article 352, clause 7, it is said that the President shall revoke proclamation of national emergency under clause 1 or on its own. It can be revoked by the President by another proclamation, or if 1/10 member of Lok Sabha issue a notice to discontinue, issue a notice to the Speaker. Okay. So the Rajya Sabha member, Lok Sabha members, 1/10 members of 1/10 members of Lok Sabha. If 1/10 member of the Lok Sabha, total members of Lok Sabha, move a resolution for disapproval, addressing to the Speaker or to the President also, the House may consider for the disapproval, and that will be also revoked. So there are two ways of revocation. One is by President, another is by Lok Sabha. And when Lok Sabha passes the resolution, President has no option but to revoke the national emergency. That is dealt with 253(8). Then the President may declare different proclamations on different grounds, even if another proclamation is there in operation. So President can use simultaneous declaration of one or two or more emergencies in India. There is no need for revocation of the existing one. Okay, so that is a broader discussion on 352. It is called the revocation. Okay. So President can declare different proclamations under Article 352 clause 8 that emergencies can be declared simultaneously without destroying, without revoking the existing emergency. It is added by 38 Constitutional Amendment Act. That is the thing. So number of changes have been made with regards to emergency provisions in India or national emergency in India since the insertion of the Constitution. I have noted some important changes that have brought about under 44th Constitutional Amendment Act 1978. You can see on the screen that what are the changes that took place during the proclamation of in the emergency provisions by 44th Amendment. First of all, it introduced the expression of armed rebellion in place of internal disturbances. As we have discussed, there are three grounds for national emergency, proclamation of national emergency. One is your war, another is external aggression, another was your armed rebellion. But the phrase or the expression armed rebellion was not there. It was used, it was written as internal disturbances. And internal disturbances have no meaning, have no defined definition, or a proper appropriate definitions It is more ambiguous in nature than clear. Therefore, 44th Amendment Act 1978 changed the expression internal disturbances and put in place armed rebellion, the expression armed rebellion. It also replaces oral advice by the PM with written advice by the Union Cabinet to the President for imposition of or proclamation of national emergency. It was also added by 44. Before that, it was oral advice of the PM, and that was the reason that became easy for the Prime Minister in 1975 to impose national emergency, citing various disturbances or disturbances in the government. But it was changed. Now the President can proclaim national emergency only after he receives the written advice of the Union Cabinet. Then in place of approval, it is now 1 month by the Parliament from the date of its reassembly, or in 30 days for Lok Sabha. Next, periodical approval to every 6 months, that was also inserted by 44th Amendment. Special majority, it was simple majority, so it was simple majority. Before that it was simple majority, but now it is now added as special majority to be approved. And in case of revocation, it also added another provision that the 1/10 member can move a resolution in the House for the revocation. That was added by this amendment. 19 to be suspended only when it is imposed on grounds of war and external aggressions. 19 was suspended because when emergency is there, that is your fundamental rights are in danger, are suspended for the time. But this amendment made that Article 19 can be suspended only when national emergency is imposed on the ground of war and external aggression. Okay, and Article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended. So these are the major changes that took place in 44. So it brought some profound changes in the provision, make it more comprehensive, more restrictive practice, and it was obviously took place during the Janata government. So it checked the arbitrariness of the executive, especially the Prime Minister, in declaring national emergency. So that is also a provision of national emergency. Okay. So we have seen that a lot of changes have taken place in the provisions, emergency provisions, since 1978 by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay. Now let us see what are the different effects of proclamation of national emergency in India or in any part on which it is aimed. First of all, President gives direction to state to carry on their executive powers. During national emergency, remember, the state government is not dissolved and the state legislature is not suspended or dissolved. So President may give directions to state executive powers to carry on. Parliament can make law on all lists. Although the state legislature is not suspended, distribution of legislative powers between the center and state undergoes substantial changes or suspended. So unlike President's rule, there is no dissolution of state legislature or suspension of state legislature and dissolution of executive, state executive during national emergency. But yes, the legislative division between the central and states undergo changes. Okay, that is also most important aspect of national emergency. The term of Lok Sabha can be extended also at this time by 1 year at a time if passed by approved by Parliament. It modifies financial relations between the central state, largely affects fundamental rights except the suspension of Article 20 and 21. Remember, Article 19 is automatically suspended when the national emergency is imposed. Okay. So you have noticed that lot of effects are there, lots of effect. Okay. So these are the major effects. So we can note that change or suspension of principle of suspension of principle of division of powers between the central states. So the clarity, the clear-cut service divisions is now suspended. Then extension in the terms of Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha, financial relation financial relations is modified, and extension of fundamental rights. Okay, Parliament Parliament makes okay. So these are the major effects of emergency you can notice, and it is much criticized. I told you it leads to total extent, but it is a fact key. We need the national body or national level step to contain emergency, because it will be beyond the power of the state to contain all types of contingency situations arises in India. National emergency has been proclaimed on 3 times, 62, 71 and 75. In 62 was on the ground of war, 71 was also war, 75 was internal disturbance, hence it was changed. Although there has been no emergency since 1975, and you can say regarding 50 years, within 50 years there had been no changes. There had been no national emergency in India. So this is also a fact you have to remember. Then article state emergency. State emergency is confined within the state, not the center. Okay, which will just read out. State emergency. What is the rationale behind state emergency? What is the rationale behind state emergency? The framers of the Constitution, as you can notice, were the conclusion conscious that in a country of subcontinental dimension and immense diversities, socio-economic disparities, and multitudinous people with possibly divided loyalties, security of the nation and security of its polity could not be taken for granted. Could not be taken for granted. Okay? Since the reason is that the state are not in a position to protect themselves against external aggression or any type of bigger armed rebellions. So, but that would definitely happens as perceived by the framers of the Constitution. That is because of nature, huge size of India, it's of a continental size, dimension, and immense diversities, multitudinous people, and divided loyalties. So, in this scenario, security of the nation and stability of its polity could not be taken for granted. The Union must have adequate powers to grapple with the grave emergency with a threat to existence of the nation on external aggression and internal disturbances. Okay? Okay? Hence, the Constitution endows the center with the power to deal with the situation marked by breakdown of constitutional machinery in a state of occurring acute law and order situations. So Article 355 says that protect the states from external aggression and ensure that each state government is carried on in accordance with the Constitution. These are the grounds. And Article 356(1) says that if the President is satisfied either from the report of the governor or otherwise, okay, the 356(1) says that if the President is satisfied that a situation has arisen in which government of the state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution, the President may declare proclamation as to assume himself. So 356(1) declares the President's rule in India. Okay, so that is 356(1), and 356(1) deals with the proclamation of the President made declaration of constitutional emergency, because state emergency is President's rule is also called state emergency or constitutional emergency. Then it can also be proclaimed under Article 365 also. 365 is non-compliance with central directives. I mean, whenever central government passes direction to the state regarding many things we have noted in center-state relations, we have discussed that central government gives direction with regards to implementation of the international treaties and obligations and maintenance of means of communication like railways. So there are certain directions as there. If the state government doesn't oblige the directions and does not go by the direction and doesn't implement, it may be a ground for imposition of President's rule. So that is mentioned in Article 365. Got it? Number 2. Number 2, 356(2) says that deals with revocation of President's subsequent resolutions. A proclamation issued under this article except a proclamation revoking provisions during that period. Resolution of both houses provided that if any such proclamations is issued at a time when the House of People dissolved, but it can be revoked by the President, not necessarily the principle of proclamation of Council of States, and it has to be approved by Parliament periodically 6 months. Every 6 months it has to be approved. So there are 2 grounds we examine. One is breakdown of constitutional emergency, okay. So that is your 356 and 355. Parliamentary approval must be within 2 months from the date of declarations. Article 353 to 356(3) tells about the proclamation, revocation of the revocation. However, 2 months from the date of proclamation itself, otherwise it will be there. In case of dissolution of Lok Sabha during such proclamation, the proclamation needs to be approved by Parliament within 30 days from the date of meeting Lok Sabha. Approval by simple majority. not by special majority. Okay, but as national emergency is approved by special majority. Then duration. If approved by the House's Parliament every 6 months, the President will continue for 6 months at a time, and the maximum period of survival is 3 years. The 44th Constitutional Amendment Act brought some changes in the provision. It says that the President will continue after 1 year only under 2 conditions. One is number one, if a national emergency is in operation at that time, okay, so it is to check the arbitrariness of the executive, and if election can be held or not. If it permits, then election will continue. A president will continue. If the election can be conducted, then the president's that will be revoked and a fresh election will be declared in this regard. Then what are the impacts of presidential executive power? All the executive power of the state will be transferred to center, and with regards to your legislature, the parliament will assume all powers to make provisions on all lists, amendment, and all the money bills also has to be approved. But there is state legislature also at this time. No financial recursion. In presidential, no financial recursions are there. All the bills, money bills and other ordinary bills of the state are passed by parliament if necessary. But there is no visible financial changes take place during the president's rule. That is to be point to be noted. Only change take place in executive and legislative powers of the okay. That is there. Executive impact, legislative impact, and the laws made during the president's rule remain in force after the latest revocation until 6 months. Within 6 months, if it is repealed, then it will discontinue. But if the state legislature does not pass for its discontinuance, then the act will remain in force. That is also a point to be remembered. That is a point to be remembered. Okay. And the first state to have presidential in India is Punjab. First state. First state emergency, Punjab, Odisha 6 times. That means 6 times from 62 to 1980. Odisha. Okay, there is 6 times. Maximum time Manipur, no president's rule so far. Telangana, Telangana and your Chhattisgarh. Okay, so there is things, and another thing, it was there in section 92 of the Jammu Kashmir Act provided for imposition of governor's rule in Jammu and Kashmir, but now it has been diluted by in 2019, so there is same provision for all states. Okay. Emergency, financial emergency is another kind of emergency under Article 360, and the financial stability and credit of India or any part of the territory is threatened, or the satisfaction of the president is not beyond judicial review as 44A 1978. And parliamentary approval within 2 days from the date of first meeting, from the date of declaration. There is no need for financial extension, periodic extension. Maximum period of continuance is unlimited, no repeated parliamentary approval. Because it is related to financial emergency, not any related to physical and movement aspect. Effect में क्या होता है? Union Executive gives direction to states to observe financial propriety, reduction in the salaries and allowances of all classes, including Supreme Court judges of Supreme Court, High Court, reservation of money bills for the residents after are passed by state legislature. This also happens in emergency also. Money bills are reserved, but mostly it takes place during financial emergency. So kindly remember that article that is the money bill will be approved by the president after that passed by the legislature. Okay, verse. No financial emergency has been imposed so far. Okay. So we have discussed emergency, 2 types, and discussed various types of emergency. Now we shall cover amendment to the Constitution. Okay, Now we shall discuss amendment to the Constitution. Amendment is a condition required for making the Constitution a living document. The Constitution requires to cope with the changing environment. Therefore, amendment is essential. Amendment means addition, variation and repeal or any provision of the Constitution. Amendment is essential to cope with the changing time needs. India follows neither easy procedure nor rigid procedure. It is a combination of both. As you have noticed that Indian Constitution is a blending of rigidity and flexibility. And Article 368 in Part IB, Part Excess, Article 360 Part Excess of the Constitution deals with powers of Parliament to amend the Constitution and its procedures. There are simple majority amendment also, but here we should see the special majority amendment. Parliament can amend any provisions without destroying the basic structure that was made after case Orlando Bharati case 1973. An amendment is introduced in either house of Parliament, not the state legislature. It cannot be introduced in state legislature. It can be introduced by a minister or a private member. That means amendment bill can be a private member bill. It must be passed by each house of Parliament, majority. There is no provision of joint sitting made. In case there is a deadlock, and if the amendment bill pertains to federal nature of the Constitution or federal natures, then it has to be ratified by at least half of the states. The President has no option but to assent the amendment bill. He has no veto power. He has no veto power. Then there are three ways: simple majority, special majority. Simple majority that is passed by a majority of members present and voting. Okay. Then these are the provisions which are required to be changed by simple majority. Admission established in Article 2, formation of new state, Article 3, abolition, creation, legislative, Article 169, second schedule related to salaries and allowances, that will be done by simple majority. Quorum in Parliament, use of official languages, privilege of Parliament, number of unit judges, official language, citizenship, election, 5th, 6th schedule, union territories. Lot of provisions. By special majority, FR and the priority principle of state policy not mentioned under type 1 and 3, every matter comes under special majority. Okay? And special majority ratification by one or upper states related to federal nature of the constitution, that is in case of any change in the organization of high court or election of the president, so and so on. Okay guys, so we have discussed the emergency and amendment provisions. With this we have almost completed your polity course. We will pursue some other classes on the basis of new syllabus in the next class onwards. Before that, let me share with you some questions on emergency and amendments. We'll complete this part. Please look at the questions and answer the answer. Okay. What will be the answer to the question number 1? Yes, unitary country, part 18, 352 to 360. Very easy questions for practice. Made the satisfaction of the president imposing president subject to judicial review. Okay. Satisfaction of the president subject to judicial review. Okay, that is 44th amendment, just make it 44th amendment. Proclamation of emergency in the Constitution is mentioned to national emergency only. Is mentioned. Judicially reviewed okay. Minerva mill case. C. The proclamation of emergency needs to be approved by Parliament within 1 month. Once approved by Parliament, national emergency survives for 6 months. Approval of emergency approval of emergency by special majority. No time limit. During national emergency, the term of Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha can be extended by one year. So during national emergency, Article 358 under Article 19 is automatically suspended when national emergency is imposed on the ground of external aggression and war. And Article 359 is suspended when national 359 deals with suspension of other fundamental rights through a further notification by the President. So 359, both A and B, 20 and 21 cannot be suspended. Justice Saha Commission in 1977 by Moraji Desai government. Six. 6 months. D. Hello? ठीक है. Resident rule was first imposed in Punjab. Six times. Financial emergency imposed in Article 360. Number C. It's correct. It's incorrect or incorrect. Just a minute. So here incorrect means Parliament has to approve every 6 months, not necessary. No periodic continuance. Then consider Yes, that is HN Kundru, and this is part 18B. HB Kamath I told you. So that is the things. Okay. In which year the following year there was no president in Odisha? 81. Because 1980 is the last year of president's rule. There have been no president's rule since then. It is correct. This is incorrect because part X deals with special majority amendment. Supreme Court in Keshavananda Bharati case. Okay. Answer will be A. Because it's simple majority. Okay guys. Okay, it's over. Okay. So in the next class we shall be starting with the other aspects. So we have completed this chapter as it was written everything in slide. So we went slow. Okay. Thank you very much for